Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all. And welcome back. Here we are. Welcome back to Three Love. I was about to say Three Love something. I don't know. Today's such a crazy day. She loves the grid. It's not that Three loves the grid, but there's three lots of crazy today. So anyway, I'm Claire. Hi, Diane. How are you?
I'm good. It really has been a crazy day.
Today was crazy. Today was insane. Before we get into today, how was your week?
Good. Last weekend we did not record. I was in Tahoe for the American Century Championship golf tournament with a lot of celebrities. Had an absolute blast. Really great time. It was great to get out of the heat in Arizona. I worked really hard and did get a photo with Rob McElhaney, who is one of the investors for Alpine. And I told him I was an Alpine fan, and he didn't really have anything to say about that. So I don't know if he just didn't want to talk about it because of everything that's happening. He's one of just a bazillion celebrity investors, but I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, wonder if that says something. So yeah, too funny, but great. But came back to a 4-day week, and you have to cram 5 days worth of work into 4 days. So
yeah, so we're just 4 days of just work. So yeah.
How was your week?
It was good. I don't even know what I did. I don't know. The days are blending. I have no idea. I did stuff, but we launched the kids' wedding website, so that was kind of cool.
Oh yes, that's really exciting, and it looks great too. So
thank you. Yeah, that was fun. So yeah, other than that, just enjoyed. It's a little warm in Berlin this weekend, so today especially. So enjoying the nice summer weather, though. It's really nice. I'm enjoying it. That's why we're recording it Sunday evening, because I needed it to cool off before I was going to turn on lights and cameras and stuff.
Yeah,
I get the weird back glow at night, but oh well. I have soft camera lighting.
Special lighting. I need that over here. Listen, this is just a reminder to do like your skin checks, because I've got this huge sore on my lip from a pre-cancer spot. So if you're watching us on YouTube, I apologize. Apologize in advance. But it's a PSA. Do your skin checks, because you would never have known anything was there until I said, this just has been flaking periodically for the last couple of years. And she's like, oh yeah, that's precancerous. So you would never have seen it with the naked eye. So do your checks.
Do your checks. Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into it. Before we get into the crazy race, silly season. We've had a few things going on, not a lot, but
no, but it was I feel like it was setting things up, because we had heard at the beginning of the week that there were rumors that Ocon has signed with Haas, and that he was going to be announced this week.
There's I'm on an F1 site on my laptop, and an ad just started playing.
That's okay. We can maybe cut that out. But yeah, so Ocon, it was announced earlier in the week that he had signed. Well, it wasn't announced. That was the rumor that was going around, and that they were going to announce it before the Hungarian Grand Prix. But then there was nothing. And then was it Wednesday? All of a sudden, Haas, K-Mag, put out a statement saying that he is leaving Haas at the end of the year. So my thought was like, okay, we're just setting it up to announce Ocon. But then that never got announced. So
yeah, I saw somebody put K-Mag and Nico in steak overalls. And someone had screenshotted that I think K-Mag had liked the picture.
Oh, no way. That's awesome. I saw that, because I think the caption on the one I saw said that steak has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. And it was both, Nico and K-Mag in the steak uniforms, like amazing. They totally should. That would be hysterical. But I just don't know that he will have a seat, Kevin.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he will.
He's setting down the wrong kind of records this year. The number of penalties,
Oh, right. Well, yeah, Ocon. I still am not convinced that Ocon would be a good pairing for Ollie. Like when it did come out that they announced that Kevin was not coming back, I was just like, no. I just don't think that that's a great. No, we need somebody else in there that can be a teacher, like we talked about on the last podcast. We don't have to go down that road again. You can go listen to it, but like a Valtteri or somebody along those lines would be, I think, a better pairing for Ollie. We cannot ruin Ollie's career before he gets to Ferrari in a few years.
Don't taint him.
No, not my Ollie. No. And then
I like that. Honestly, I'm hoping Newey ends up in Aston Martin, but that was interesting to hear that the Ferrari's not going to get into a bidding war over him.
Yeah, that's the rumor. So I've seen different things where Adrian wanted to bring 20 engineers to Ferrari. I heard that the Ferrari executives did not want to get into a bidding war for him. At the Silverstone GP, oh my gosh, I'm just going to blank on his name right now, but he was on that show, like, I don't know, it was about cars. Anyways, he said he knows that Adrian Newey is house hunting in the area where Aston Martin is, that he's not looking for a home in Maranello. So it seems like maybe it could be Aston Martin. And supposedly he's met with Papa Stroll again, and Papa Stroll got the money. So like, yeah, I think Zach Brown would like to have Adrian Newey, but I don't know. I just don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. And I mean, and they've got the right tech going, the right engineering right now. So I don't know if they want to mess with what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But exactly.
I have hopes.
Liam Lawson did some filming testing. So during the year, the teams get a certain amount of time to film, and they use it as a testing thing. And Liam supposedly, I don't know if I think he must have drove a Red Bull, not a V car, but they were underwhelmed was what was coming out of that session. So I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if that means he would go to V carb. I don't know if he's really being considered for a Red Bull seat. Yuki came out this week and said that would be weird. That would be weird if they picked Liam to go to Red Bull. So yeah, I don't know. But they were underwhelmed, which I think is weird because he proved himself last year when he filled in for Daniel. So
yeah, and it would be weird. I think Yuki deserves the seat over Liam, and Liam would come into V car. But
yeah, I think Yuki deserves the seat over Daniel. But I could see Horner wanting to put Daniel in there. He's been there before. He seems to test well in that car. So I don't know, but yeah. Definitely not Liam. But let's talk about the custom lids that were
a couple of pretty ones.
Oh, they were stunning. So our YouTube page, go to it if you have not seen these, but I feel like Lando's we saw a lot, but I love everything about this hand-painted lid. I mean, it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love the shots in the studio and how they said it, but I just love why he did it. Really to show the respect for the group that makes the trophies and whatnot. So I think it's really cool.
I do too, and I think also he learned a lot last year after he broke Max's trophy during the champagne celebration, or it's not champagne, but you know what I mean. During the celebration, and I think it's also kind of a fun little nod to that error that he did not mean to break it. It just happened. But this is absolutely gorgeous. And if he comes out with a mini version of this, I think I might have to add it to my Lando Norris mini helmet collection because it's so beautiful. I just love everything about it, and that it's hand painted. Like, what a work of art.
It's and unique, right? I mean, that's just completely one of a kind.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this until a few days later when Esteban Ocon released his helmet, which I don't know that his is hand painted, but it's kind of the same idea. It's patterned after the top when he won Hungary in 2019, I guess it was. And so he copied the top of his first place trophy, and also very pretty. Lando's, I think, is more gorgeous, but I just thought poor Esteban probably thought he had such a clever design, and then Lando released it. Lando released it first, like, oh, oops. But it's still beautiful. I love it, and I love the sentiment because that was a huge win for Esteban then, and for Alpine. So it's still beautiful. It's still
it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I think those were the only helmets that I saw.
Yeah, those are the only ones I saw. That I have to check if there's others. The only ones I saw pointed out and talked about.
Yeah, same. So just very quickly, 2026 stuff. We talked, oh my gosh, I can't even remember, a month or more ago about the 2026 cars and the simulators and how they were slower. And now the stories come back out again, and they are 10 seconds slower per lap than the current cars. And so people, I think, are a little bit concerned about that. That's, that we are trying not to go, we don't want to go slower. We want faster, and we want more wheel-to-wheel racing. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if it was just kind of the story just gained legs again, or if something happened and, it's come back up. But I don't know if they're going to be the teams will be talking with the FIA or what.
I wonder when they're making these changes. I don't know if you know this, and I wouldn't know, but now that I've been to a race and seen all the F series go, when they're making these changes to the requirements for F1, are they making changes for the other series at the same time, like F2, F3? So does that mean all of the series are getting slower, or is it just F1 getting slower? Because that, if you think about it on a race weekend, if F1 is slower but the others aren't, that's even more drastic of an impact, I think.
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly don't know because I have not looked into that at all. So I think we should look into that because I think that's a great point. Because when we talked about this a month ago or whenever, people were saying that the cars were going to be about the same or slower than the F2 cars. So I don't know, like, if you do go backwards like that, how could the F2 cars be faster than the F1 cars? So we'll have to
be weird.
Yeah, that would not be good at all.
Especially when they have the rookie drivers driving, if they're coming from F2 and driving, it's like, I don't know, it would be an easier transition maybe, but interesting.
Yeah, maybe, but that is not what we want. So the other thing that came out this week, Haas has said that they are going to continue to use Ferrari engines through 2028. So I kind of feel like that's not a surprise. I think that was part of the deal with Ollie, because Ollie is a Ferrari Academy driver. And I think that Haas wanted to make sure if they take Ollie, they are still going to have the engine. So I don't think that's a total surprise, but they did announce that this week. And then the other thing that is being reported is that Rolex is going to be leaving F1. And so you think about, we see Rolex on, the signs and the timing, and they may be leaving after this year. So I don't know that that's official, but that is the rumors going around right now. And that LVMH, which owns a ton of brands from Louis Vuitton and Dior, everything under the sun now kind of falls under this one company. And so maybe the Tag Heuer lines and, some of their watch brands might be coming in instead. But I always think so my kids grew up golfing, and you see Rolex, there's the big Rolex clocks at every course. And they're so synonymous with a lot of different sports organizations, and especially F1. So it would be kind of crazy that.
Yeah, that's weird. That's so weird to lose them. And it's like, what's going on with Rolex? And are they pulling out of other sports, or is it just F1? It's just interesting.
And why F1 when it's been on the rise?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or maybe a demographic change. Is it because of a demographic change? What is it?
I don't know. Still money, but I guess it is getting to be a younger audience in F1. So maybe some of those that Tag Heuer brand is very popular, as are some other ones. So I don't know. Maybe it is going more that way, but we'll have to see. But very interesting. What else? We had a lot of upgrades this weekend, for sure.
Yeah, some. I don't know if they did much to the ones who got upgrades though, but
no, I feel like it never does. Aston Martin, Red Bull, like not necessarily the best weekend. I mean, not horrible. Don't get me wrong.
no.
Fernando and Stroll were both up there, and Max, whatever. But like, we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know. Let's talk very, very quickly about quali, because there were some big things that happened in Q1 for sure. Raining off and on all throughout quali. It would rain.
Which we talked about. We were wondering, was it going to rain, because there was all the we kept seeing, you kept seeing it on social media too, where there was reports that there's all this deluge of rain and swimming in the pits. But then when practice came out, FP1, FP2, it looked like perfectly dry. And I don't recall hearing any mentions of rain. I mean, those were some of the most practice the last couple weekends have just been so boring. So there just wasn't much going on.
Yeah.
But even with a red flag, it was boring. But I don't remember them talking about it. So I was kind of blown away, even though it was more overcast on Saturday when the day started. I did not expect rain. I didn't look either. But yeah, the rain definitely put an interesting monkey wrench into it all.
It did, because they had to keep adjusting. You know, it was, okay, is it dry enough? Is it, you know, and some of the cars were just, going here and there. I think I some of the biggest things, I think Logan Sargent did really well. Q1, Q2. I was like, what? This is like last race, and he did pretty well in qualifying. But for sure, Checo crashing into the wall. Q1.
Yeah.
What? I mean, my hopes just plummet when I see that happening, because there's so much conversation around. He had supposedly this weekend and next weekend to pull it together, or, you know, they were going to start making decisions over the summer break. And what does he do? Puts it in the wall. Awful.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
he had the near miss in practice, right? Remember, I forget who it was that went right across his nose, but somebody went right across his nose. I forget who it was.
Joe,
that's who it was. Yeah, Joe, and almost hit him. So that was like, whoo. I was like, oh, see, he's okay. And then he takes himself out.
Yeah. I mean, he just spun. And so he has been out in Q1 4 of the last 6 races. That number, I feel like we talked about that the last race, and it's like that number just keeps growing. 4 out of 6.
Same with the number of races that Logan Sargent's out qualified.
He's up to 8. Wait, I don't know how to get on the screen. He's up to 8. 8 times Logan Sargent has out qualified Perez this year. What was this? Our 12th or 13th race? 12th race. 12th race?
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, Logan Sargent cannot out-qualify his own teammate in the last year or this year, but he has out-qualified Perez 8 times this year. 8 times.
Insane. That's insane.
Logan needs to add that to his resume. Like, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But then we also had Russell going out.
I know. Talk about a high-low situation. I mean, oh my gosh. And the emotional roller coaster of the last race. And then that, oh my gosh.
And to me, like, George took responsibility, but they did not put enough fuel in his car. So he took responsibility for when he was out there, but they didn't. Toto said they were 1 lap short on the fuel. And George did say this on his radio, how do we not put enough fuel in the car to get through qualifying?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think he did all right today. He was quiet. I don't think anybody really talked about him, but I think he was in the points.
I think he was. I'll double check.
Well, let me think about that. I know Yuki was 9th, Perez was 7th, Max was 5th, Carlos was 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I don't know who was 8th. And then Yuki was
It was
9th.
8th. Russell was 8th.
Russell was 8th. So, I mean, he pulled himself up. So there's that. I mean, not too bad. But Alpine, talked about Alpine at the beginning of, maybe this is why Rob McElhaney doesn't want to talk about it. So last Silverstone was a blank show for them, like awful, but awful this time. They're both out in Q1, both of them. They'd been doing pretty well getting through, some qualifying before Silverstone, but yeah, they were not out there on the right time at all, if at all. I don't even know if they were out there. I don't know. Supposedly it was like they wanted to save tires for Q2. That did not work out. I've also heard that they didn't think they would improve since there was no DRS because of the rain and the track conditions. And so FIA said no DRS. So they didn't want to take any chances. But come on.
Chance of not progressing? I mean, come on. You're just put yourself in the bottom 5.
Right? Let's save our tires for Q2. Wah, wah. We don't even get to Q2 because we can't get out of Q1. Insane. Absolutely insane. In Q2, Logan was very frustrated. I think he felt they both should have gone through to Q3, but he said nobody's getting out of the way. It's a short track. That's one of the things about Hungary. It's one of the shortest tracks. You have at that point, 15 cars out on, I had to really think about that. 15 cars all out there, all kinds of corners that you can no longer bunch up like they used to and do, allow space. So you just have to get out there. And he was saying nobody was out. Nobody was getting out of their way. So there was just nothing they could do. It just is what it is. And then Q3, Yuki, my Yuki, crashed. That was so sad. It was so weird because it was like he hit the grass and they think he bottomed out, which is what made his car jump into the air. But do you know what happened between yesterday and today? They took that grass out where he hit, not all of it, but one section of it, right where his tire went, and they put in gravel. So I'm thinking they thought this is not safe. We've got to get rid of that. So that just was, that was just terrible for him. But it did interrupt a lot of fast laps. Alonso was on one because there was a red flag. So Alonso for sure was on one. But they did restart the session with 2:30?
2:13, I think.
2:13. Okay. Yeah. Which was crazy. But Max did not go back out. He jumped out of the car. Alonso did not go back out on track. He jumped out of the car. Yuki was already out. So you only have 7 drivers going out on track for the last 2 minutes. Crazy.
Yeah, I was like, to me, Max, okay, he was P3, and I think he was like, well, he was okay with that. But Alonso wasn't high enough up. To me, it's like that just didn't make any sense. But
yeah,
okay.
Maybe you just don't want to take the risk or something. I have no idea.
I think that one driver, I can't remember who it was, who could not get, 1 or 2 drivers could not, because they still had 7 drivers who had to get out of that pit lane.
Yeah.
And out in time. There was a couple drivers that did not get out across the line in time to be able to do a lap too.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know. I wonder if Sainz was one of them because he went back. He never did a fast lap. He came around and went straight back into
the Sainz was one of them. There's 2 or 3 that did not get a chance because I was watching the timing, and as soon as it hit 0, there was 2 or 3 that still hadn't finished the 3rd sector. Yeah. So they didn't cross the start, what you got to do, you know what it is, but you just started over to, because you have to be past the start finish line before the checker flag goes to be able to count the next lap. Right. Yep. There's at least, I think 3. I want to say there was 3.
Okay. I did not realize that. I was stressing out in Q2 because everybody was lining up and they were allowing all that space. Like, one driver would go off and another driver would wait. And I think it was Hulkenberg that was like, I'm running out of time because where their garage is, they're at the end. And so when that pit lane starts to back up, he can't just squeeze his nose in there. He has to wait for everybody to go by. And I was starting to stress out thinking like, oh man, they may not.
I don't know if it was Q2 or Q3. I think it was Q3 when it was the McLaren garage that basically told them, the McLaren told Norris and Piastri basically don't hold so long that you get a penalty. Like they were really trying to get, just right on this so that it did keep several from being able to improve their time.
Yeah. Craziness. But I mean, a front row lockout for McLaren. Holy cow.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible.
Let's just look at how, as much as there's been some crazy stuff going on and there's been silly season and all this stuff, we've had not Max dominating. It's been such a great year. It's been like something different to talk about it, different people winning. And of course we're like, oh, I don't think we're hearing as many excuses anymore. Well, it's just because of this or just because of that. Why Max, like it's unfair for Max. No, Max is just not performing. The car's not performing, which is what F1's all about. The strategy today, is it performing? We're seeing breakdowns and armor in all three. And as you pointed out, where Max doesn't perform well if he's not in front, he doesn't drive that well.
No, because I think he spends too much time in his head. He's complaining about everything. And oh my goodness, today I about lost it with him here. I don't know how GP keeps his composure, because I am telling you, I was yelling at the screen when he ran into Hamilton, is my feeling. FIA said it's a racing incident, whatever.
Hamilton did too. I saw the report. Yeah. Hamilton said
said it was a racing incident, which I think it was. But when Max on the radio said to GP, he's moving under braking, I about threw my plate across the room, because that's all Max did against Lando a few races ago. Like, are you kidding me? It's for me, this is the stuff that I never liked about Max, and it's all coming back up, because when he is not in the lead, he gets whiny, he's complaining, he's cussing. Like, it's what's good for the goose is not good for the gander, I think, as far as Max is concerned. He wants to be able to move under braking, but he doesn't want anybody else to do it. So anyways, let's talk about the race. Alpine again, Gasly for the second race in a row, starting from the pits.
What is going on with that car? And then they had to retire it anyway.
That's right. They did. They retired it. So I think you had told me that he was starting from the pits because of a power unit. They changed his power unit. Like, again? I mean, how many power units is that now? But the rumor, or allegedly the reason he retired the car, I think that was around lap 30 something, was because of hydraulic leak. So I feel like we're dealing with all kinds of different issues. So like you said, what's happening with this car?
They're just starting to get things on the plus side, and now it's falling back apart. Like I don't know what's going on there.
I don't either. And I mean, it doesn't look good, because I mean, by default, Ocon beats him. Like, and I think that happened the last race too. Yeah.
Ocon still only finished 18th. So what happened? Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. And your teammate DNF, so that's 20. So if one person's behind you, I'm going to guess that was Logan Sargent. Show. What?
Yeah, Logan actually finished 17th.
Yay!
17th. He actually beat two people today.
Hooray! What a good weekend. Oh, I didn't know it was Joe. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I don't think Joe's going to be back next year.
I don't think so. Where did I hear he might go? Not Indy. I don't think it was Indy. Oh, Formula E.
Ooh.
That could be. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. Okay. So let's talk really quickly about the start of the race, and then we could talk about like teams, because then we're going to have to break down the whole McLaren thing, because oh my gosh. So, but holy cow, Oscar got a great start.
What a great start. And then freaking Max going off, and we were out there. I'm like trying not to yell out on my terrace. He better get off of his spot. Max better give that spot back. He better give that spot back. And I was just so happy when
Same.
race 10 came on. It's like, yeah, we better just give that. So they're
Yeah,
investigating now.
but what was so frustrating, and it was the first time that I yelled at Max from my TV, um, they were 3 wide going through there. Oscar, Lando, Max. Max didn't really have anywhere to go. I think Max wanted, he tried to say that he was run off the track, but there was nowhere for Lando to go. And Lando kind of backed off to give Oscar, because I do think that Lando does do the right thing or the fair thing in a lot of situations. And in that case, he could have also ran wide and, gone in front of Oscar, but he's not going to. He backed off. Then Max is wide and he overtakes when he's gone off track. You can't do that. Absolutely not. And that was, we're not even just past the first corner, and he's arguing with his team, telling them, no, I'm not giving the spot back. They pushed me wide. It's always somebody else's fault. That's what annoys me. It's always somebody else's fault. And at one point he even said to, I think it was GP, but they kept telling him, you need to give it back because the stewards are going to tell you to give it back. And he's like, well, why don't we just wait to see what they say? And I guess that's when Christian came on and was like, nope.
Yeah, he's like, they're investigating it. You need to give it back before this decision. I'm like, thank goodness. I was like, finally, and he listened to Christian. But I think from that point on, that was it. Max was not going to have a good race the rest of the race.
Yeah. No, because it was lap 4 when he finally gave it back. Lap 3 was when he was arguing. We've gone this many laps. You know the rules, dude. You know the rules. You can't do that. And that's what we're going to do. I just think and then what also ticked me off is after it happened, this is where I think Max mentally gets in his own head. But after he gives the place back, he gets back on the radio and he's saying, so now the FIA just lets people run you off the track. And he was kind of like, okay, basically like he's going to do the same thing. And it's like, come on, can we not? You're driving a car super fast, pulling G's, and you want to do this? He just sounds like he can't take.
Is that when GP was like, we don't need to be talking about this over a radio?
No, that was towards the end.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. That was after the Hamilton issue when he was saying,
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
when he said that Hamilton
oh my gosh,
braking or moving under braking, and GP, came. GP's got to be exhausted by the end of these because it was back and forth the whole
day. And I thought it was really interesting what the commentators were talking about, how they do have such a close relationship, and that the people who do GP's role have to have that boldness and whatnot, and be able to, depending on how their driver is and working with them, and that. Thick skin too. Think, you keep it off sometimes. But it was pretty interesting as they talk about that relationship between Max and GP, and how GP can, I forget how they worded it, but it was almost like they were saying how GP can handle Max.
Yeah.
And how GP was almost like, whatever, Max, get over yourself.
He adopts that attitude where he's just like, he will be passive aggressive with Max, which I kind of love. I love that he is just okay, man.
You're up by that?
Calm down. I think he told him to calm down during quali or practice or something, like, calm down, Max. I don't remember what Max was saying, and he's like, well, what are you worried about? Is it the tires? Is it this? And Max, it's the rain. And GP's like, calm down, Max. And I don't think anybody in the history of the world calms down when somebody tells them to calm down, but I think it's hysterical that GP tells him stuff like that. Yeah.
I do too.
Ugh. Oh my gosh. Well, why don't we talk some more about Red Bull, unless we want to just talk about some of the lesser teams.
No, let's talk about Red Bull. I got more of tell me when you show the slide of more of the conversation with Max.
Oh, yes. Well, let's talk about Checo really quick, because my initial thought at the beginning of the race was, is Checo's confidence wavering? Like last year, he started off really good and then he went into this slump, very much like this year. But he worked with a mental coach and a sports psychologist, and he seemed to be like, get it back together. And again, this year, he told Christian Horner, I guess in Christian's kitchen, that like he thinks he's just overthinking too much. And so Checo said, I'm only going to focus on my side of the garage. You cannot worry about what Max is doing, which Max is, still doing really well. He's winning the championship right now, but Checo needs to focus on his own. And today, I will say, he did go from 17th all the way up to, did we say 7th? Yeah. Max finished 5th. Checo finished 7th. So they both got points and both added to the constructor total, which is awesome. But a lot like last year, and I said this a lot last year, Checo is just making it very difficult for himself. He's crashing the car. He's number one in the amount of damage done to a car this season. And he's having to pull himself 10 spots up to just get into the points. He's doing a lot of work. So I think that's a little frustrating, to say the least. But I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts about Checo?
No, I agree. It's like, I feel like he's, if you had to go and judge somebody who's working, it's one of those workers. It's like they're trying so hard, but they're just have so many bad days, right? Yeah. When they try hard, when they're there, they do it, but it's like that thing that they have no luck. There's just no good luck, and if it's year over year, it's kind of hard you can't rely on that person, right? And the gap, I think, is worse this year than last year. And so that's just making it worse and worse because, as we hear a little bit more, even when we talk about McLaren later, there's the individuals that are fighting it out, the racers, they've got their sponsors and what they do for the points. But the constructors, the teams, they have two for a reason. They need both sets of points. And if you are consistently, you can't have one person carrying the whole team.
Yeah. And Max really this year has been carrying the whole team.
And Max is starting to waver.
Yeah.
Because other teams are getting better and they're having obviously strategy issues and they're having some mechanical issues. And,
it's need your teammate nearby to be able to give you a tow when you need it, or to, K-Mag has blocked for Nico. You need your teammate there to, give more strategy options for the team. Boy, I don't know. Do you think he's done enough? I mean, we've got one more race allegedly before they make any decisions, but is he doing enough today to show that he can still fight for it?
I think today gave them a little pause, but the rest of the weekend, if he had not gone up 10 places today, it would have been a done deal. But I think today gave him just a hint of pause, like he's just hanging on. It's kind of like that thing with every little finger's being coming off the cliff, right? And it's like, I'm gonna put one back on there,
Yes.
He needs the most perfect weekend or a pole and win. He needs the Cinderella story coming out next weekend. Otherwise, I think he's doomed.
Yeah, I thought maybe from practice and whatnot, okay, here we go. He might be able to do pretty decent, and it just did not work out at all. Well, let's talk some more. We talked a lot about Max, but let's look at some of the quotes from today that are freaking hysterical. Also, as a side note, Max was playing his video games. He was taking his stint in the virtual 24-hour Le Mans. His stint went from midnight to 3:15 a.m. So you think somebody might be a little grumpy today, but why? I mean, they don't race until 3 p.m., but they still got to be at the track pretty early. So why is he doing that?
I was up until 6 a.m., but I didn't have to drive a horrible race,
right?
Race. So,
and you probably didn't
have
the
same time zone as them, but I'm just saying. Yeah.
I'm still, he's got to be at the track by 9. Like, you've got meetings, you've got to get prepared, you've got your routine. Why are you doing your thing at 3 in the morning? Come on. That's to me is just crazy. Okay, anyways, some of the stuff that this is just some of the radio. You can see these on our YouTube channel, but yeah, Max was grumpy as all get out. And I think it was David Coulthard said he's not a happy bunny at one point. That's going to stick with me. That's going to stick with me. But GP at one point said, well, that's some gentle introduction. And Max snapped back. No, mate, don't give me that beep. You guys gave me this bleep strategy. Okay, I'm trying to rescue what's left. Beep. I want to know what happened, what was said before GP said, well, that's some gentle introduction, because
yeah,
it must have been something not very nice.
Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, that was some interesting stuff. Like he's like the snark in him, and that was like beyond snark. I mean, just the attitude.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that their strategy was great. That's very rare for them. I think Mercedes, and we can talk about them in a second, I think for Lewis, they had a great strategy. People had to react to what they were doing. But yeah, this is just not nice. And then the other one, it's quite impressive how we let ourselves get undercut and just completely blank my race. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That happened. That's for sure. I think this is just where it's like, I think he gets in his head and he lets it just go bad. And then, I mean, that's it. And then he tried. I think this is where I think he starts to get desperate. And once again, just like he did to Lando, he runs into Lewis. They're saying it's a racing incident, but he definitely dive bombed him and locked up his wheels and went airborne. I think he gets desperate and he starts taking chances, taking risks that don't need to be taken.
And, I was watching, one of the things I was watching for a little bit is I was watching the two McLarens and Lewis and Max, right? And while I would see Max gain and Lewis maybe lose, or Max gain and one of the McLarens, whoever it was at that time, lose, whoever, I think it was when Piastri was in front. When Piastri was in front, they kept pretty much their timing difference. The gap between first and Max was staying pretty solid. There was a period of time where he pushed it, kind of caught up, and then it started going back again. But what I thought was interesting, it was more the people in between that were getting slower and slower, and the pace between Max and the leader were almost the same.
Oh, interesting.
I was really kind of paying attention to that. Like, if he passes, is he going to be able to win? Like, that was my whole thing. Like, is he going to actually win? Is he going to win? But that gap kept staying fairly consistent between him and P1 the whole time. And it was the closest gap I saw him, aside from tire changes, right? When they're all done with their tire changes, was I think 7-ish seconds, but most of the time he was a good 10 seconds out of first place.
Oh yeah. I mean, that spot, I know it was as much as 19 seconds, I think, at one point. But I do think that for sure the battles, which were epic between Lewis and Max, happened at 2 different points during the race. But that slowed them both down. And so it was allowing those McLarens to get even further ahead, because those battles, I mean, Max was trying and Lewis was holding him off for the most part.
I love seeing him and even Charlotte at one point when they were battling, just not letting Max pass. Like of course, I have to, I can't help it. Like my TV is a few seconds behind the app on my phone. Oh, yeah. And they'd get close, I'd look and go, because I sometimes get closer and closer, and then it wouldn't pass. I was just like, oh my gosh, they're not letting him pass. So he's being outdriven. Like, he's not being allowed to pass, which is awesome, because this goes against everyone saying like no one can outdrive him. He was being outdriven.
Yeah. Lewis was very defensive with him. Charles was at one point, but like the battles with him and Lewis definitely defends against him really well. Elbows out. That's exactly right. So I think after the race, I did see something where Max was asked about the radio conversations, because that was just what we showed was just a touch. Like there was so much happening. I couldn't even type fast enough between the McLaren radios and Max and GP. And I missed a whole heck of a lot. But
one of the commentators was like, "This is going to be on the next season of
Drive to Survive." Yeah,
absolutely the drama in today's race. Oh my god,
they're going to need way more episodes of that, because every race, it's like, what a story! And here's yet another race where we're like, what a story! I mean, not only did Oscar win his first race, but all the drama with Max and all the drama with McLaren. And we'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, every weekend is like, who is writing this stuff? Because it's insane. But Max, somebody called him out and said, why the attitude or whatever. I mean, I'm using the word attitude, but they were asking about the radio messages. And he said, well, they kept coming at me with this kind of like BS. And I wasn't going to put up with that. Like they weren't telling the truth. They messed up and they weren't owning it. So he was going to fight back. I can't get too mad. I mean, I think those conversations are funny. It makes me mad when he doesn't take responsibility, but it's kind of like when Yuki gets mad and cusses at his engineer. Like to me, it's kind of funny, and again, I give major props to those engineers for staying calm and for doing what they need to do. But when you don't take responsibility and it's everybody else's fault, that's when I start to have a problem instead of owning it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, let's talk about Ferrari, because initially I was going to say, like, how many sad weekends can Charles have in a row? And he finished fourth.
Yeah, and did some good strategy. They were actually
yes. Well, they followed Mercedes' strategy on that last stop. Lewis went in first, and then Charles had to go with him. And I was like, holy cow, wait a second. Did Ferrari just do a good strategy? I mean, I don't think it was theirs, but we did it. I was really bummed that Carlos, he lost a lot of spots on the first turn. And I just think that he ever could recover from there. He said it was kind of a lonely race. He was kind of on his own. But, I think what's sad is after the last few races, they are definitely a solid fourth place team. Right now, they just do not have what it takes to compete with McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull. I just don't think they do. The qualifying is not good. We're middle top 10 team. Sad to say, but true. But it's still annoying that Carlos has not decided on a place.
I know.
Just saying.
Oh my gosh.
I
mean, hopefully before the summer break is over. Maybe.
We'll see. I don't know. Now, I think at this point, if you're him, if Perez does go, do you wait? Do you wait to see what happens? Do you say maybe Christian Horner is going to give me that seat? But I think Max does not want Carlos there because he's too much of a competitor. So I don't know. Do you still wait for Mercedes? Because Kimi Antonelli won F2 race today, but he said he doesn't know if he's ready for F1. He's still learning things in F2. I don't know. I just don't know. But yeah, I was rather hoping during some of the battles with with Max and Lewis, Charles was like sitting right here. He was right behind them. Safe enough distance. I was hoping those two somebody would lock up, somebody would do something, and he could just like swoop, go right through. But no such luck.
I said a big spider just dropped down in front of me.
Oh, I saw you push back.
I don't know where it went. But
is it?
I mean, it's not dangerous or anything, but it just spooked me out because it was just like right in front of my face, literally.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, as long as it doesn't climb on you. That would not be good. If we hear you screaming, we'll know. We'll have to cut the part out too. It just goes to a black screen. Like
Yeah.
that.
I go running away.
Well, I'll just talk real quickly about Williams. I think they thought they could have done all right, but again, bad strategy over there. Alex, I don't even remember what lap this was. They told him, "Hey, we're going to go with Plan B," and he was ticked.
I know. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
He was ticked in a way because he's like,
"I had a bad day today."
Yeah, but he said, "I don't appreciate that because you told me I had to pit early, and there was no like you need to extend the tires." So he was pushing. He's like, "The tires are dead. Tires are dead." Then he goes in and he has a 4.9 second pit stop. Like
I know. It's the pit stops today. Several of the teams had horrible pit stops today. I don't think I saw any below 2 seconds.
No, definitely not. And probably 2.3.
Not many below 2.5. Most of them were like 2.7, 3, lots of 4s.
Yeah. I could not believe that. I think strategy was a key to this race, and then also the pit stops. I noticed the same thing. So many people with really high pit stops.
I wonder if it was the heat.
I was just going to say
everything expand, and because we noticed, you even said something like the back tire guy on one of them. I wonder if they were just struggling with the heat and everything just moves a little slower because of the expansion.
Yes. Who was the back? Was that McLaren, the back tire guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
McLaren.
I wondered if it was the heat too. I mean, it's been a long weekend. It's been very hot. I'm sure it was super muggy. But yeah, I mean, even Lance had a 4.1 second pit stop, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch we didn't even see, but it was rough in the pits today.
I thought it was interesting on one of the Red Bull ones. They never put up how many seconds the actual pit stop was. They had several come through, and they were like timing them, and boom, 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 and the Red Bull one just kept going down and just disappeared without a time being shown. Like, is it that bad?
Right? Exactly. That's a little crazy. I will tell you, I'm very impressed with Yuki because he rode those mediums for 30 laps. 30 laps and got points again. He was 9th today. And I just have to say major props to Yuki. That was incredible. At first I was like, wait, he hasn't been in? We're on lap 30. Everybody's been in. Nope.
It was insane.
That was his first time. All right, let's talk Mercedes really quickly. Like we said, I mean, Russell didn't do too bad. He kind of made up ground, but dang, Lewis Hamilton on the start, he got off the line well. And I think if those cars hadn't been 3 across, because it looked like he was trying to come right up the inside around turn 1.
He was.
I feel like he was re-energized after that last win. And it's like incredible. He's going for it. He's absolutely going for it. But more than anything, the strategy for Mercedes. Lewis was the first person to go into the pits. So then other people at the top had to start coming in again towards the end when he went in, and then Charles followed him in. I mean, the best strategy. Absolutely amazing. People had to react to them. They had to. They absolutely had to. And that kind of sets off the whole Lando thing, which we'll talk about in a second, is Lando was called into the pits before Oscar because they wanted to ensure they had to hold Hamilton off. They had to pit him, put on new tires, and then that would keep them as a 1-2. Now, who wins, whatever, we wouldn't know. But, I mean, it was all because of Mercedes' strategy and what Hamilton was doing. That, to me, was just like, nice job, Mercedes. I feel like they are definitely back at and again, we've already talked about this, but to see Lewis battle Max more than once.
It was a great battle. It was good.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, they both had some errors around lap 35. Like Hamilton, I think he locked up, but then Max couldn't slow down. And so he ran wide at that point. And then it happened again on lap 62. And that's when we had the issue. But George ended up with fastest lap. So I mean, making the best out of a situation. You come out in Q1, you get into the points, and you give yourself an extra point for getting the fastest lap. Love it. I mean, seriously, incredible strategy for Mercedes. They're trying to keep themselves in that for sure. And then Lewis, third place, 200th podium. I think you have a cool graphic.
I do. When we get to that. Yep.
I think that's amazing. Okay, let's break down the McLaren thing. And it's really funny because my brother-in-law just sent me a text and he must have just watched the race. He never watches it when it's on. So this is what he says, and I'm reading this for the first time. Lando was too nice to follow that directive. He was winning. Yep, true that. I'm still in a quandary about all of that.
It's interesting. Again, before we get into all the back and forth, the one thing I have to say is, we talked about the last race where they brought Lando in first, and then they kept Oscar out for an extra lap, and I think there was a safety car was all in that. I forget, and it really messed it up, and he got so far behind, right? And he got way, way, way off. I think, and I've got two things about this. This one, they kept him out two laps. So it wasn't that Lando pitted and then on the next lap, they had Oscar come in. They made him do an extra one. And that's what I think the commentators kept saying. They kept him on that extra lap, which put him 2.5 seconds behind coming out.
Yeah.
And that's what really screwed up everything. And so they did another disservice to him. So I could see where they're like, well, hey, they were playing the game of, and they kept asking, why are you saying Hamilton? Because of where Hamilton's at. But then Hamilton ended up there anyway. But, it just, the strategy seemed weird. I think what it boils down to is this was a 1-2. And they were running 1-2. And the last time they had to stack them in the pits, they didn't do well. And they're not used to having stacked cars in the front and having to deal with it. So their pit crew needs to get better about how do we deal with strategies and stacked cars, because if we're going to keep competing and we're going to have two drivers, and they kept saying on the commentators that how Zach Brown wanted two drivers, and I forget the guy, I forget his name, but he came in afterwards. It said, I trusted Lando. I wasn't worried about it. We brought two drivers that are team drivers, and it's about the team. And they wanted two that could compete. Well, you got two that can compete.
Yeah.
Then you need strategies that can deal with two that are on top of each other like that, because that's where you keep screwing up. Two races now in a row.
Oh, it's been more than two races because you have Canada, Silverstone. I mean, that's just the last handful of races. They have messed up a lot, and it's Andrea Stella, that the team principal, that's and yeah, I mean, this is an ongoing issue. And not only have they screwed Oscar up in multiple races, they've also screwed Lando out of probably 2 wins. So he should, have 3 wins maybe at this point. But they keep screwing it up, and they have got to figure this out, because what happened today puts both drivers in a bad position. It never should have happened like this. And I feel for both drivers. I think it's a no-win for the drivers. And all I kept thinking, and this is totally stupid, and like everybody can roll their eyes at me, but all I kept thinking is, like, when there's one person and they're playing 2 people that they're dating, right? Like, you've got 2 people that you're dating, and people just want to blame, like, say a woman. Okay, you're the other woman. No, it falls on the dude that's playing the 2 women. I kept thinking all race or towards the end, I'm like, these 2 drivers need to come together and be like, no hard feelings. This was not us. We need to be pissed at them. We need to be pissed at the strategy people, because we should never have been put in this position ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I'll put their stuff up. Some stuff was said. Yeah. So, and what I think is interesting, these at the beginning, what was said was that, because we heard a lot about what's going on with Lando. They didn't show Oscar's radio that much. I don't know if there wasn't that much of the Oscar, but you get that, Oscar, they said Lando, Oscar just pitted. He'll likely come out just behind. We'd like to reestablish the order at your convenience. And then Oscar was like, once you get to Lando, we will swap position, but we want to avoid Lando losing time. So
which I totally get that.
Yeah. And to me, I almost was like, I feel like Oscar was driving. I don't know how hard he was pushing, and he was almost driving like, oh, well, we're going to swap. So I just need to make sure I keep a good pace. So how hard was he pushing versus Lando's like, I'm out there going to prove that I can keep this ahead and he can't catch me, blah, blah, blah. But then they kept talking about this next one. We think both cars are using their tires too much. Just remember every single Sunday morning meeting we have. Was that about the tires or was this about the team? Like, what are you insinuating?
It's about the team because at that point when his engineer, Lando's engineer, says we think both cars are using their tires too much, he had already been on the radio to Lando at least 4 times telling him, we're concerned about your tires. Like, it just kept escalating. First it was like, watch your tires. Then it was, we're concerned about your tires. Turns 4, 11, whatever. You need to watch your tires. And then it was this. We think both cars are using their tires too much. His engineer was using the radio too much. Like, if you want them to switch places, say it. Because it started off with like this, we're concerned about your tires. And then it kept escalating and it kept getting worse. And he kept saying like, you need to remember you're going to need the team at some point. You're going to need Oscar at some point. Like, the threats just kept getting more and more like crazy. And I kind of don't, in some parts, I don't blame Lando, and other parts, I can't blame the drivers. I think that what the strategy did was just awful because at one point Lando had a 6-second lead. Oscar, I think, was trying to go up and get closer, and he almost lost it. He went off the track again, like the second time. That's how Lando got so close to him the first time. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was another thing that his engineer said, Lando's engineer. He said, we do want to let Oscar through. And Lando said, well, you should have boxed him first then, surely, no? And Joseph said, it doesn't matter. And Lando said, it does to me, maybe. And so there are all these kind of things like, you should have boxed him first. Tell him to catch up then, please. Like, Lando did not want to slow down at all. But I also think it was Oscar's race. He fair and square got into first. He fair and square ran that race, and he was 3 or 4 seconds ahead of Lando. I think even a little bit more at one point. And
he was.
And it was when Oscar actually, he did go off the track, and that's what like closed that gap. And so I can see yes, we called in Lando first because we need to make sure we have a 1-2, but do the right thing and give it back. And I mean, how many laps did Lando go before he finally did?
A lot. Almost an end, because at one point it's like there's 5 laps left, man. Like, you know.
Yeah. And I've seen online where people have said, well, why didn't Lando just give it back right away and then race each other? Now, I don't know if McLaren would have allowed them to race each other. They gave them the all clear a couple different times during the race. And at one point, they said you can race through like through the 40s. So laps 40 through probably 48, 49. And then they were going to go to team orders. But yeah, I don't know. Would they have been allowed to race? Do you just move and take your chances? I almost wondered if there were 2 laps when he did move over, and I wondered if he was going to try to go after him, but he did not.
I did too. But then there's the risk of them wrecking out, taking them both out. I mean, there's just, so much. It was interesting afterwards. Like, Lando did his best in all the things immediately after the car to just not comment too much and, and kept it, tepid. But then after a little bit longer, then he was much better. But, if we go into the
well, before we do that, let me just read a couple more because I did type some.
You got a lot.
So I didn't get them all, but because I mean, my God, like I said, Joseph was on the radio every 5 seconds, which is not fair to Lando either while he's trying to drive and the race and all of that good stuff. But so one of the things was Lando's engineer told him to do the right thing. He said, you've made your point. there's no way Oscar can catch up. And at that point, Lando basically said no. So, I mean, that right there, like, you've proved your point. That, yowza. Then there was also the way to win a World Driver Championship is with the team. You're going to need Oscar. You're going to need the team. And then that is when at lap 67, he finally backed off. And then if you noticed, I don't know if you did notice, but when he did back off and Oscar went past, Lando said something about, yeah, you don't need to say anything. And I don't know if that was because maybe Oscar didn't give him a little wave, didn't like show appreciation, or if that was towards the pit wall, like, you don't need to say anything. I don't know what that was directed at, but he was still pretty salty at that point. Yeah. Craziness.
A little salty.
Little salty for sure. So I think you had other ones. Sorry, I wanted.
No. That was the thing that went loud on my other computer was an article that had a whole bunch of the words in it.
Oh, yes. And then the cool down room.
That was interesting. So these little screenshots here, it's like what's missing is when he takes the P2 hat and just tosses it on the whole floor before he puts his helmet down, which was a little emotional.
Yeah. And he did pick it up a little bit later after he picked his helmet up, but I thought that wasn't very good. But Lewis, like, I think Lewis is just trying to break the tension. I don't know if he knew how much was going on between, the two cars. But when Lando came in, Lewis said, "You guys are fast." And Lando said, "You had a fast car 7 years ago." And Lewis, I think, is like that first photo where his face is kind of like, what? And he's like, 7 years ago, long time. Were you even here 7 years ago? Which I absolutely love, because no, Lando wasn't there 7 years ago. But Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion. And Lando replied, "You had a quick car and now it's us." And Lewis said, "I wasn't complaining. I was complimenting your car." And oh my goodness, the comments on social media to that exchange. Lando's a brat. Lando is a little kid. This shows the difference between a man and a boy. Like, I mean, they were going hard. But it's like, but why go there? I get it. You're probably still adrenaline, everything else. Lewis is trying to make small talk. Like, he's complimenting your car. Why? Why do you need to take it out on him? I don't get that. I think that was really disappointing.
And you can see the looks on their faces, on the podium afterwards, and
awkward.
The fun is with Lewis and not with each other. It's like it's awkward.
Yeah, no. I'm sure Lando does not want to be holding that second place trophy again there, but when they did the champagne, he walked right past Oscar standing on that front step and went right for Lewis with the champagne.
Yeah, I missed that at first because I was and I had messaged you about that, so enamored by it. And I thought it was cute that he made sure he didn't break the trophy this time. Like, he set his trophy over on the table, walked way out in front, slammed the thing down on the thing. And I at first thought he was going to the guy that held their constructor plate, and didn't realize till later it was just looked more. I didn't see the snub to Oscar originally, But it's wow.
But it was. I think it's so confusing too, because when they got to Parc Fermé, Lando shook his hand. They were smiling, but so I think it was probably just a roller coaster of emotions for all of them. And then, Lando did say that it was well-deserved. Oscar's win was well-deserved. He said he understands Oscar has, moved aside for him in the past. And then he said, but I think this is different. But, the main thing he kept saying is about the team. And he was asked about it several times. And I think he just wanted to have this conversation with the team. I think that in that sense, I thought that was good, that he wasn't going to air that dirty laundry on the, in the press conferences. He was
I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Again, I think it was just a crappy position to put these drivers in. It taints Oscar's first win, because people are going to say, well, Lando had a 6-second lead. So I think that's disappointing. I don't know. McLaren's got to pull it together on the strategy. I really think they do. And I think it was interesting on F1 TV to hear David Coulthard talk about this because he had the same situation when he was with McLaren and was told to move over for Raikkonen. And during one part of the broadcast, he said, I shouldn't have done it. And then he contradicted himself later on. And he even admitted he contradicted. But it's like, it is a team. It is a team. And you don't want to go into that, with the team not thinking they can count on you. So, I mean, I wish I could be a fly on the wall when they had their discussions.
Right.
I think both have very valid points is kind of my thing. But we have 7 different winners this year. And like we had said before, last week or last race, I think I said Ferrari's had both of their drivers win a race, Mercedes, and now we have both McLarens. So there's your 6 winners from 3 teams plus Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and then this is Oscar's first win. He's also the 5th Australian to win.
Yeah. And guess what? The last one was Daniel Ricciardo when he won for McLaren. No, that can't be. Oh, Australian. Yeah.
Australia.
I was like, wait, what about Lando? No, the last Australian to win was Daniel, and also for McLaren. So there you have it. But major for the constructor.
And then we had Oscar got driver of the day.
And again, I sent you a text when I voted for him. There were 17 laps left, and I said I'm voting for Oscar because he deserves it. I did not think Lando was going to give the spot back, but so I was like, then I'm voting for Oscar for driver of the day. So good for him.
And then, as you said, Lewis got his 200th podium, first driver to do that. So that's pretty cool.
Can you imagine 200 podiums? Insane. I'm happy for him getting 3rd today. That was great.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
All right, then our standings. What I think is interesting about these standings is because I was doing the math while you were talking earlier. If they hadn't swapped positions, Norris would have 100
points behind. Yeah.
He would be 196 points. So he would be just 66 points. So close,
Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to decide. Like, do we do a 1-2? We still get all the constructor points, but we get Lando closer to the World Drivers' Championships. Do we do we do the right thing and let Oscar, who led the race and, it was just our strategy, get his first win? Like, it's just, it's tough. It's tough. Crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. But if you look at that, you've got, look how McLaren, look at them, 338 to 389. The commentators are saying they didn't think there was a way. They kept saying that there's no drivers come this far apart in the driver's standing and won, right? So that's still too far of apart kind of thing. So it would be miraculous for Norris to beat Verstappen at this point. So
I hope he does. All it takes is a couple DNFs and boom.
I know, right?
Then, McLaren jumped Ferrari second in the team standings. What?
They said there's definitely a chance that Red Bull's not winning this because there's just too much competition. Look at that competition,
and
man.
That's some major money too, coming first. Craziness. Yeah. Wow.
It's awesome. I did notice though, just because I thought it was interesting, because when you mentioned how much Yuki's been scoring lately, he is exactly double the points as Danny. Yuki has 22 and Danny has 11.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And what a difference that's making. It's keeping them just ahead of Haas. Amazing. Yeah. Poor Kick Sauber. Still with 0. Yeah. Valtteri has 0. Joe, I think, does Joe still have 0 points? I think he does.
Joe, yeah. But the ones considered last is Valtteri. He's considered last of the constructors.
Oh, craziness. Well, it's just getting interesting, and hopefully Spa will be amazing, and then we'll have a whole month off.
Speaking of Spa,
yes, classic track, 44 laps, pretty long track, 7.004. It actually is the longest circuit length on the calendar. So yeah, so that's why we have 44 laps. What else? The drivers love it. The drivers absolutely love it. It's long straights, challenging corners, fast corners. It really allows them to push the cars. The circuit is so big. Sometimes it can be raining in one part of the circuit, but not on the other part. So
It's
whether
funny you say that. It's coming a torrential downpour outside right now. It's just the
is
rain
it?
has started. It is pouring down right now.
We look like we're getting ready to have a monsoon. The wind has kicked up since. That's why
It
I was watching.
literally, yeah,
Like,
and that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, because it just started like 5 minutes ago, and it is
oh, lovely.
pouring down rain outside.
That sounds awesome. Well, the weather next week, I don't know what it's supposed to be like, but the weather can definitely play a factor. And the Eau Rouge is one of the most famous sequences on the calendar in the world, probably. But it can be very dangerous, and especially when it's raining. So hopefully that's not it. Hopefully that's not it. But we've got one more race, and then we have our summer break. And as we talked about last year during summer break, I think they have a few days so the cars get back and they put everything away and all that good stuff. And then that's it. Nobody is working the rest of that time. So then we'll start back up the end of August.
Then Netherlands, and then
Yeah.
Monza. We get to see each other again.
Monza, hooray. It's going to be here before we know it. It's like 35 days or something like that. So,
oh my gosh.
I know.
It's a long one, but you take a week off and a lot happens. It happens.
Well, and you have a race like this, and yeah, a lot happens.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone coming along, dealing with all the craziness this week, because it was an exciting race. They just keep getting better and better.
Definitely. I love this season so much.
You too. All right. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.